in the dusty little town where nights felt colder than truth itself. A woman named Lila walked the empty road with trembling hands and tired eyes. She had once been full of dreams, dreams of a small home, laughter echoing through the rooms, and a life where her children would never see hunger. But dreams had slipped away the moment her husband disappeared without a shadow or a goodbye, left with two children, 7-year-old Rose and 5-year-old Eli. Lila had been surviving by stitching clothes, washing dishes, and taking any small job she could find. But that night, the work had dried up like the desert wind, and she had nothing left except hope that refused to die. It was past midnight when her children could no longer keep walking. Rose leaned against her mother's waist, and Eli clung to her arm, both exhausted. The small general store was closed, its porch dimly lit by a flickering lantern. Lila knew she could not keep dragging them through the night, so she carefully laid her children on the wooden steps, taking off her shawl to place under their heads. She tucked them in with her only sweater and whispered apologies that broke her heart. "Mama is right here. I won't leave you," she murmured. But she could not sleep. Hunger gnawed at her. Worry clawed at her chest. She sat awake, holding their small hands, praying the morning would somehow come with mercy. That's when the sound of hooves broke the silence. A tall man on a dark horse rode through the sleepy town, the moon carving out his silhouette like something out of an old legend. He slowed as he passed the store and saw something he never expected. Two small children curled against each other, shivering on the wooden floor. The man, a rancher named Colt Hargrove, pulled the reins and dismounted. He stepped closer, and in the soft lantern light, he saw the worry-worn mother sitting beside them. She stood up quickly, embarrassed and protective. Colt raised a gentle hand. "Evening, ma'am. Everything all right?" Lila swallowed hard. "We're fine, sir. Just resting a bit," but her voice cracked, betraying everything she tried to hide. Colt's piercing blue eyes softened. "Kids shouldn't be rested on a cold porch in the middle of the night." Lila didn't reply. She had no strength left. The rancher crouched beside the children and lifted Eli's tiny hand, noticing how cold his fingers were. "These little ones need warmth," he said. "Quietly, come with me." Lila shook her head. "I can't bother you. We don't need charity." "Ma'am," Colt replied, lifting both sleeping children into his strong arms, "this ain't charity. This is what decent folks do." She stared at him, breath caught in her throat. Nobody had helped her in months. Nobody had even looked at her with kindness. Yet here was a stranger lifting her children as if he'd known them forever. As he carried them to his horse, he looked at her firmly and spoke words that would change her life. No more. No more cold nights for them. Or for you. Lila felt her knees weaken. Something inside her, the part that had been beaten down by life, began to rise again. She followed him through the quiet streets toward his vast ranch, where warm lights glowed through the windows and smoke curled from the chimney. When they arrived, the ranch hands rushed to open the doors. Colt carried the children inside himself, placing them in the softest beds the house had. Lila whispered, "Why would you help strangers?" Colt paused, his voice rough with old memories. "Because once, someone found me on a cold night, and I never forgot, and for the first time in months." Lila felt the weight on her chest lift. She sat beside her sleeping children, tears sliding down her cheeks, tears not of fear but relief. The rancher stood in the doorway, arms crossed, watching the small family with a quiet promise written across his face. This was only the beginning. Morning sunlight spilled over the ranch like a warm blanket, turning the fields golden and breathing life into everything it touched. Lila woke before her children, the softness of the bed almost confusing her. For a moment she wasn't sure where she was. Then she remembered Colt, the rancher, his kindness, his words, "No more." She stood slowly, smoothing her hair, and walked toward the kitchen. The smell of fresh bread filled the air. Colt stood beside the stove, pouring coffee, as if helping strangers was the most natural thing in the world. "Morning, ma'am," he greeted with a nod. Layla blushed. "You shouldn't be doing all this." "Don't worry," he said, with a small smile. "My mama taught me hospitality. Plus your little ones could eat a whole bakery." They shared a soft laugh. It was the first time she had laughed in months. Soon Rose and Eli came running into the kitchen, eyes bright, cheeks warm, no longer cold or afraid. They ate with the hunger of children who hadn't felt full in far too long, and Colt watched them with a tenderness Lila wasn't prepared for. After breakfast, Colt showed them around the ranch. The children squealed with delight as they saw horses, sheep, chickens, and open fields larger than anything they had imagined. Lila watched them smile and felt tears form again, this time from gratitude. "Why are you being so generous?" she finally asked. Colt looked toward the horizon. "I grew up poor," he said quietly. "Lost my parents early. Folks around here helped me survive. Now it's my turn to help someone else." Lila lowered her head. "We don't have anything to give back." He stepped closer and said softly, "Sometimes giving someone safety is all the repayment a man needs. Days turned to weeks." Lila worked around the ranch, cooking, helping in the garden, stitching clothes. She felt useful again, strong again, and every night Colt sat on the porch with her, talking about life, dreams, and the quiet pain they both carried. The children adored him. They followed him like ducklings, helping him feed animals, learning to ride horses, and filling the ranch with laughter. One evening, a storm rolled in. The wind howled, shaking the windows. Eli grew scared and ran to Colt, who picked him up without hesitation and said, "You're safe here, little man." Lila watched from the doorway, and something inside her heart opened completely. She realized the rancher hadn't just given them shelter, he had given them a home, and maybe something even bigger. A few days later, Lila decided to leave the ranch, not because she wanted to, but because she believed she had stayed long enough. She found Colt fixing a fence and approached him. "Thank you for everything, but we shouldn't stay forever. You've already done so much." Colt straightened up, looked at her with a steady gaze, and said the words that sealed destiny. "Lila, I didn't rescue you for one night. I brought you here because you belong here. You and your children." She stared, stunned. "Belong here?" "Yeah," he said softly. "With me on this ranch, in this life. If you'll stay." Her heart thudded. Tears welled in her eyes. She had been abandoned, beaten by life, and forgotten by the world. But here was a man choosing her with his whole heart. She nodded slowly, unable to speak. Colt took her hand gently. "No more sleeping in the cold. No more fear. No more hunger. I promise." Rose and Eli ran toward them, wrapping their small arms around both adults as if sealing the promise themselves. And from that day forward, the ranch wasn't just Colt's home. It was their home, built on kindness, healed by love, and strengthened by a simple vow: no more suffering. Ever again.